Welcome to the You Can't Afford Me podcast, where we skip the fluff and dive straight into the grind. Real entrepreneurs, real struggles, and the unfiltered journey behind success. Let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of the You Can't Afford Me podcast. Today, I'm super excited because I'm actually hoping this lady that's in the studio right now will let me invest in her business one day, which I'm going to kick off the podcast immediately asking her about that. But long-term client, long-term friend. She has a phenomenal business model that I think this is going to spark a lot of thoughts in people listening to this episode. So today we have Cherie Smalley with SpaTacular. Cherie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So real quick, give everybody like a 30-second rundown of who you are and what you do.
So my name is Cherie Smalley. I'm the owner of SpaTacular. Trying to get away from the word party so much now, just because we're so much more than a birthday party destination. I have a full retail store for kids, but a kids spa and birthday party destination in Midlothian, Virginia, in the heart of Midlothian.
So I told you when I first met you and walked into your old space, this is one of the smartest business models I've ever seen. Like any woman with a daughter that I've talked to and explained this model to them, and it literally is like 15 seconds. Like I don't explain it as well as you do, but I'll basically say, hey, she has a day spa for little girls. And the moms and wives go crazy when they hear that. How did you originally come up with this concept?
So really, had my last child, Carter, and really was wondering.
But you have all boys.
I have all boys. I'm a boy mom, and just really wanted to stay home with Carter, but was getting out of the cosmetic industry is what I wanted to do, but still wanted to do something, but not quite sure. And I just had a really good friend that said, Cherie, you need to be an event planner. So just got online, realized, oh, wow, University of Richmond has an event course that I could take for event planning. So I didn't quit my job right away because I was part-time in the cosmetic industry still, and just took this course, 8 weeks. My teacher there at U of R offered me a job to intern with her. So I did do that. I had about 6 weddings underneath me, and right around that time, my niece Caitlin said, Aunt Cherie, will you do my birthday? And I said, what do we want to do this year? She said, a makeup spa party. That's where the spark really began. Then posted those pictures on my personal Facebook page, and then somebody from high school reached out to me that I hadn't seen in a very, very long time and said, hey, could I pay you to do my daughter's party? And I was like, what is she talking about? So once I met them and then listened to what she wanted, and I thought, whoa, wait a minute. Because once I set it up, and then parents were dropping their kids off at the house for a sleepover, and I did a makeup spa party. Here you go, moms, can I have your business card? And I thought, wow, wait a minute. Maybe my mom was right. Maybe I am onto something. So that's truly where the spark began 13 years ago. Started out mobile, did that for 5 years. Found my first brick and mortar at Sycamore Square in Midlothian. Stayed there 7 years. Made it, of course, through COVID and all those things. But I knew really in 2021, I needed a bigger home. I needed to find something. So now we're in our beautiful location right there in Village Square in Midlothian.
It is absolutely gorgeous. So a couple nuggets there I want to break down. I've been, like a lot of podcasts and books I've been reading recently, and I fully thought this before. I want to hear your opinion on this, where, a lot of people say, follow your passion and you'll never work a day in your life. I've come to start learning that I think that's a bunch of BS, where I'm not saying do something you hate for the money, but just strictly going after your passion, I don't think will fulfill your life the way people think so. But I love the way that kind of came together for you, where the business kind of revealed itself. Ultimately, from a little kid, ultimately is where this started to spark. But this wasn't something that you were even thinking about at all, and it presented itself. And then you dropped another nugget there where you didn't quit your day job. I think too many people, number one, especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur, it's one thing if you've built a business before and kind of stepped out on your own, that's one thing. But like when you're doing it for the first time, like you and I both did over a decade ago, you need to see if this is something that you're really built for. Because off camera, before we started recording, you and I were talking about I ultimately believe entrepreneurs are born, that they're not made. Like you got it in your gut or you don't. Just like I look at a guy like LeBron James, you could put me in a gym working out 15 hours a day. I will never be able to play basketball like LeBron James. Like a part of that was just born into his DNA.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that in terms of like, because following your passion is one thing, but like, I think you can agree that there's never, everything in your business is not something that you necessarily enjoy doing. We have to do the things we need to do in order to make the business successful. So what do you think about following your passion strictly in terms of starting a business?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there at that beginning, I thought, wow, this is a passion. I love to decorate. I love doing skincare, makeup. I was teaching women all over Richmond, you know, how to apply and to do skincare correctly. And, but really for me, I would say really probably 7 years in that I was like, oh, this is much more than, you know.
Yes. You got payroll, you got marketing,
yeah,
you got all
once
these
I
different
went
things.
brick and mortar, once, you know, when I was mobile, doing it, you know, going to your home, everything was in my home station, you know, that I was supplying and storing. But once I went brick and mortar, I think that's where I went, okay, now this is real. Like this is, and really, truly, I opened the doors in, you know, 2017, and probably about 6 months in was asking myself, what have I done? Now this is a lot more than what I expected, and I think a lot of people think you know, you open a business, you have this idea, you put a sign on a building,
And people just
and
pour
people
in.
are pouring in. No, this is, you know, for me a lot of hard work. I did it really, truly all on my own. And I did baby steps with it. And now I'm looking, you know, like I said, 13 years in, now what's the next step? So I see, you know, I've gone through so many different stages as a business owner, but now I'm really starting to see that, you know, I do have something really special. It's, you know, a lot is kind of in the works. What am I going to do next with SpaTacular? You know, so
when I tell you, like, there are very few business models that I've looked at and I'm like, this is like the very first meeting we had, like you broke everything down to me. I said to you, Cherie, you got to let me be part of it. Like, I understand you want to pay us on the marketing side. How do I get a piece of this pie? Because I'm like, I haven't seen this anywhere else, and I see the reactions of people when they walk into your facility. Kind of break down your services a little bit more. So, like, I have say my daughter's 7 years old. She wants to do a birthday party. Talk to me about the options that we have.
Yeah. So currently, right now, there's 3 birthday parties that you could reserve with us. All things SpaTacular, a SpaTacular mani-pedi party, and a SpaTacular makeover party. Max of 12 girls, so it starts kind of her and 5 friends, and then each friend after that's an additional, but a max of 12. We really do everything. You just get the kids, they're there. You bring the dessert, and we do the rest.
And you got like the robes for the girls
and hot towel, you know, a warm towel caddy, just as if they were big girls, you know. And but we do talk them through our facials as a candy facial. Everything smells like candy and ice cream. You know, we're adding a lot of fun things for spring break and the summer for them that we're getting ready to put out, you know, on our social media, and just trying to stay ahead, you know, with everything is where I am right now. And
the ingredients in your products aren't the same as like an adult woman is not using the same nail polish. Talk about that.
And that's what's really important that I really want to get across, because, you know, we're not to use stuff that's made for women. I see a lot of, you know, young kids come into my space and my girls are talking to them about skincare, you know, and I know they're going to some of our places that are here at our local, you know, malls and stuff, but it's not made for them. Parents really need to read the ingredients that what's in there. They shouldn't be using things with vitamin C and hyaluronic acid and stuff like that on their face at all. It's not that definitely should not be used. Even though some of the packaging, this is what gets me, is the packaging looks like it's tailored for young girls. You know, it could have a unicorn on it. It could have a panda bear on it, you know, but really it's not for them, and they shouldn't be using it. But everything is made and safe that we use. It's all made for kids, safe for young skin, nail polish as well, you know. And those are really important things that parents should know. You know, they're kids still, they're young. Let's keep them young. Let's, you know, not try to get, and I think that's what's so important to me as a business owner too, doing what we do, is that I don't want them to grow up fast. You
Yeah.
know, that's why it was important in my new space to open up upstairs. We'll have a VIP, 10 and over. I want to keep them coming, 10 to probably about 12 years old. I want to teach them, when it gets to that time, the importance of how to take care of your skin. So I'm kind of going first, back around from where I started.
Yep.
14 years in the cosmetic industry, teaching. I had a phenomenal clientele. And I think I do now with kids,
Yeah.
So, I mean, these kids come back, parents come back.
Yeah, you told me some stories where some girls have been there for the last few years for their
gosh.
birthday party every single year.
Yeah,
Like,
every year. I mean, some of them I've seen at least 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
To me, that speaks volume. It's, I love the fact that they want to come back. And that's why it's important for that upstairs. I want to keep them coming. That's why I'm really excited to share some new stuff
Yeah.
here very soon.
and even some of I may be making this up, but I think you told me before, even aren't some of your employees girls that used to
gosh.
come there and have parties?
Now you're starting. Yeah. So I have.
Well,
probably,
pause right there for a
yeah.
second, because I want people to realize how amazing that is to turn someone from a young age as a client to now you are providing employment for them.
It's
That speaks
wild.
to the depth of the brand, because not a lot of business can keep someone for 2 months,
Yeah.
let alone 10 years.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're so entrenched with what you're doing and how you continue to progress, that they go from customer to employee, that's a
Yeah.
phenomenal thing. So
Yeah.
share what you've seen with that.
It is pretty touching, I will say. I have had, and I have probably currently on my payroll right now, 3 that I've done, whether they were 10 years old, 7 years old. I just hired for this summer 2 new girls that will start in May. Same scenario. They were really young. This was their, getting a first job at 16. I mean, I'm going to work at SpaTacular, hopefully,
Yep.
And just, listening to them share their story and how really, truly we touched them at a young age is pretty special to me. And now to see them come to work and really they see the vision kind of like I see for SpaTacular. I mean, they see the big picture. Like, this went from something that was mobile that went to its first brick and mortar. And most of the girls that have worked for me, I really did when I was mobile.
Yeah.
Only no, I take that back. 2 of them I did when I was in my Sycamore Square location, my first brick and mortar. So I don't know, it is special. It really is. And I see them share their story. Like Miss Cherie did my birthday when I was, 7 years old. And they're like, wow, And it's really interesting when young girls come in, they want to know who's the owner of this place, and everybody's looking and, and I want to work here when I get bigger. Can I come work here when I turn 16? So, it's special. It is.
And that shows, so that's the difference between having a business and having a brand.
Yeah.
You have a brand now where years go by and this is still a thought in their head. That's not easy. As much as I enjoy working with you on the marketing side, building a brand to that depth has nothing to do with anything that my team's done. That's all a credit to your personality, how you've worked with clients over the years, and your personality. People just love you and they want to be around you. So even if they're like, hey, if I've aged out of being able to have my parties here, I want to work with her. I want to come work with her. I want to work with her.
Yeah.
Talk about that too I want to go back to that transition when you first became an entrepreneur. So you were still working your day job. You started this on the side. When did you know? Because I tell people all the time, it's never a moment where it's like, oh, I'm making 2x what I make during the day. I guess I should just quit my day job.
Yeah.
It never works out that way. When did you know, hey, it's time to hang up the day job and go all in on this?
Truly, I think, every time I went into someone's home when I set it up, and I would hear, but I'm going to give credit really to my husband. I'll be honest, my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
He really was. He said, Cherie, if this is something, I think he could really see how much I loved, whether it was, when we were mobile, everything was custom made. So we were custom doing flip-flops. This was really had become like a family thing at this point.
Yeah.
Scott's grandmother was helping me. We were making, custom flip-flops. We were sewing and bowing every fabric you can imagine to make every little girl's birthday exactly what she wanted.
Yep.
But I just remember Scott just said, you know what, Cherie, you've got this. You got this. But in the back of my head, I was like, I have a career that I've been doing for 14 years. And I think what was scary to me, was jumping out.
Yeah.
But I knew deep down,
It's the right thing to do.
it's the right thing to do. And I remember talking to my boss, and he said to me, Mr. Gerlich looked at me and he said, Cherie, you've got something special. He said, you're going to be okay. And I just looked at him and I said, please tell me you take me back. If all this went poof and I was a little nuts,
Yep.
And he looked and he said, you're not coming back. Don't look back. You're not coming back.
That's a good boss.
And I just was like, wow. And I remember him. He doesn't live in Virginia anymore, but I just remember him looking at me and, and I was one of the top producers here in Richmond. And he looked at me, he said, you're not coming back. You've got something special. And I just always remembered that. And I always remembered every party, everything it was, wow, do you do this for adults? Do you only do this for kids? Like, it was just that feel good. And I always love to make people feel special and feel good. And that is really what I'm doing with young kids. I mean, it's just when you see them with the pink doors, parents want to take pictures. When the doors open up, it's just this wow, and they feel good. And that's, I always say, if you're having a bad day, come by my shop. Come swing by. You'll immediately change your mood when you walk into SpaTacular. It's
nothing but
just
smiling faces there.
Yeah.
So because that's something I had to learn early on as an entrepreneur is we have to trust our guts.
You do.
Like because you'll get opinions from all which ways, and it sounds like your circle, you got probably more positivity than I did when I stepped out on my own. But just knowing that, if this blows up in your face, you can always come back and get a job. You have a skill set that you developed. So that was probably what gave me the most comfort when I stepped out was, I stepped away from a career that I was part of for 10 years in the mental health space. So I was like, if I try this for the next year and it doesn't work out, I can always go back and get a job. Yeah. So I hate when that's something that holds people back in terms of like, they don't want to take the risk because they feel like they're giving it all up. Like, if you were great at what you did before, somebody's still going to hire you. Let's talk about something where you and I think, have talked about this a lot on the side in terms of work-life balance. I ultimately believe it's BS to have work-life balance as an entrepreneur. It doesn't exist. One area of your life is going to teeter-totter this way, that, or the other. I probably have said to more often than not, Cherie, you got to get your people to deal with that. Like, you don't need to be doing all that. Talk to us about that for you as you continue to scale up, how you're able to let control of certain things and find comfort in that and know that, like, in order to take this thing where you really want it to go, that you have to employ people and put people in a position that you can trust them and allow them to do their thing.
Yeah. So, for me, just finding the right people, and I will say, I believe, as of 2024, 2025, I have the best team right now. Found two wonderful people to step up and kind of be me now, which is nice. I'm totally blessed to have found both of them.
Which this is not an easy thing to do, by the way. To find the right people.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I feel like just now the right team's in place. Yeah,
so that's it's taken that long.
Yeah.
It's taken that long. That is one thing that I have really prayed a lot about, is finding the right people. And just learning that, it's going to be okay, Cherie. Even though I like to be at every single child's birthday party, every single appointment, I love to meet the people that come into my space. I love to let them know, I love to thank them. If I'm not going to be there now, believe me, they're going to know when I'm calling and just following up that I'm stepping away for the weekend, but you're in great hands. And so, and everybody's like, Cherie, absolutely, absolutely. Go and enjoy your weekend. So I think, but it has taken a long time.
Yeah.
This didn't happen overnight once again.
Yeah.
This is 13 years of hard work. And, and it's amazing because, you'll meet people that think, oh, I could do this, or we could do this, okay.
Yeah. No.
It's a lot more than it all looks glamorous and it all looks
Yes.
fun and pretty. And
I can tell people, you can look at something that someone's built. Most people want the end result. They don't want the work that went behind that. Like I used Michael, I think on the episode I did yesterday, I used the example of Michael Jordan, how, to me, greatest basketball player of all time. He was a horrible father.
Yeah.
He wasn't present at home. And you can't be the greatest in the world at something and also be the greatest dad at the same time. Like something has to give.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just don't realize like the areas of sacrifice, because if your husband wasn't so supportive, this business could have cost you your marriage.
Yeah.
But you had a supportive partner. You found the right partner to grow with in life and in business.
And I did. I do still. I mean, that's probably one little thing in the back of my mind too. Austin had kind of grown up a little bit, but then there's still Carter coming up. So Carter was really young when I started SpaTacular.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of weekends, basketball games I didn't get to make too, I did go to all the practices during the week because I was able to do that. But and his dad videotaped a lot of things for me. But there were a lot of things that, I missed out because I was building SpaTacular. But once again, like you said, I had somebody that was supportive. And, and I've had many talks with Carter, and he's like, Mom, and just like the other day, he was like, what are you doing? He called me, and I told him, he was like, are you looking for a second location? What's up with you? So, I mean, he has seen this baby.
Yeah.
He has seen it grow. I think my kids are, very, very proud of their mother. Very proud.
And that's, to me, because I wanted to start the business, like when I came to the realization, I was about 29, 30 years old when I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur. This is well before I'd never met my wife before. Obviously, we weren't married and had kids and all that stuff. It was always a vision for me to start building so that when I had kids, I didn't have to miss everything. But the point you made there too, and you just helped me realize in this moment, because I can remember back, like I ran track and did soccer in high school. And I can think back to times when, my dad, like my parents had a great marriage. Like they always grew up in a great household. But there were times when my dad had stuff to do and he wasn't at every single track meet. And sitting here as an adult years later, I'm not like, oh, my dad missed this, my dad missed that. Like he was supportive in every way that he could be, but just understanding there are certain things he had as the head of the household, certain things he had to do. But I think the lesson that you showed your boys in terms of like, look what Mom did. Like you guys got to see the hard work firsthand. So they'll never, like when they walk into a small business, they have that thought in the back of their head is like, man, I know how hard my mom worked to put something like this together.
They're already trying to. It's funny when we get together, now that my kids are older and, it's, Mom, what could we do? Let's start a business. Like, I think they really, and we've played off some different things, but I don't know. We'll see. But,
both their parents are entrepreneurs.
Yeah, my husband's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It is. So it's wild. So maybe it is kind of like in the genes, the blood. I don't know. But both of them have definitely, picked my brain about a few things. And so
Love
I don't
that.
know.
Love that. What would you say sitting here 13, 14 years later after starting this thing, what would you say has been the hardest part of being an entrepreneur?
Well, for me, the sacrifice. I mean, I've sacrificed a lot. I've missed a lot of birthday parties. Like I think about all the kids in my family growing up, and I look now and I'm like, how are you 21? How are you 23 already? Like, where did all this time go? So, like back to finding the right people to help me run SpaTacular. I mean, I made it. My goal was I'm not missing this little one's birthday. I've missed a lot of other birthdays. So my nephew, I didn't want to miss his little boy's birthday. So I made sure, and it was a Saturday, I wasn't there. So, just those type of things. And two, probably employees, just finding
That's
employees.
my number one.
That's the number, is you got to find the right people, and I think making, once you do, and working through those things, like I have systems for
Yeah.
my business. There's definitely systems, and I have learned what my systems are, and if I've taught them correctly, and how I would want SpaTacular to
Yep.
be ran if I was not in here that day, then it'll all run, smoothly and good. But I would say the right people too, and the sacrifices that I've given.
So what would you say, because I feel like I just found this answer out probably within the last 3-4 months. What is it that shows you that someone is the right person? And as you think about that, I'll tell you my new process. So I have a 3-step process now for hiring someone. One, the first interview is via Zoom, because I'm not going to waste time even bringing you in here if I don't know you're the right person, and I want to have a deeper conversation. If you pass that interview, I then bring you in for a second interview in person, and I have other people on my executive team part of that conversation. Then the third is something new that I started this year. You've seen the movie Social Network, like the story about Mark Zuckerberg starting Facebook. It was one scene in there where it's like midnight or something like that, and like they got programmers sitting there and everybody's cheering, and like the programmers have to take a shot like every 2 minutes when a bell goes off or something like that, and they're just coding as quick as they can.
Yeah.
And then Mark's just trying to see who can code the best and the fastest. And someone does it, and he leans in, shakes her hand, says, "Welcome to Facebook." I said, you know what? Why am I not doing something like that in my business? Now, I'm not getting people hammered during their interview, but why am I not putting them through a stress test? Because we work in an industry where I need you to think on your toes, because we may have a script and a game plan going in to shoot something for you one day. And then you're like, hey, the sign didn't come in, so we can't do this. Like, what else can we do today? I need someone who can think on the spot and be able to accommodate what a client needs. So third interview, I have them film something for me, my personal brand, and I'll let them know, hey, here's the subject matter I'm going to speak on. You got 15 minutes to conceptualize this. Use any part of the office, outside, inside, whatever you want. Talk to these guys. They're going to get you set up with whatever gear you want. We're going to film this. It's going to take less than 10 minutes for me to knock out what I need to knock out. And you got 60 minutes to edit this video.
I love it.
Holla at me once you're done with that. And I may have like 3 people in that process during the interview, and I'm looking at all these different things in terms of, is this because like I'm kind of sitting back. Part of it is the video. The other part is, let me see how they're thinking. Number 2, let me see how they're interacting with my other staff, and let me see how my staff is interacting with them. Do they initially like this person? Is this someone that's going to vibe with them? So what is it that you do to figure out, because obviously over the years, we've had a lot of the wrong people work for us. How do you now know when you have the right person?
Kind of doing a little bit kind of like you are. I don't do the Zoom, but that's a good one. I probably should do. I do a lot of, I'll meet you face to face first. You'll come in and meet. But then I would like for you to come in on the weekend.
During a party.
I want to see, because that's really important. People will say, oh, yeah, I love kids.
Yeah.
But then.
Until you got 12
you got about 12 of them in my space.
Yeah.
And they're really excited. And you have to control the situation and not let them be in control.
Yep.
Just to kind of watch that. Is very, very important to me, is really making sure you really do like kids. I gotta make sure that how you interact with my other staff. And what I say, when I was saying earlier, having a great staff, I have girls from all over that work for me. All of them have become good friends. And it's really special to me to hear, they meet after work and go have dinner, and now I've heard, I thought it was really cute, Valentine's, couples, they all went to eat, and the other didn't. I thought, well, that was really nice, so I know that I've created this really fun, safe place, for young girls to work and meet and all become friends. So, but yeah, I do like the Zoom thing. I think I'm gonna.
I'm just more efficient with my time now in terms of
I think that's what it is too. That is what.
Yeah, because a lot of times I think if I get in person with someone, that conversation could go on for an hour.
Yes.
If I have them on Zoom, it's a lot easier for me to cut off.
Yes.
Because Zoom will automatically, like if you create a Zoom invite or if you create something on your iCal or something like that,
Yeah.
it normally automatically reverts to a meeting automatically being an hour.
Okay.
I've cut that off, and I've told my staff when they're putting stuff on the calendar, don't have me sitting and talking to this person for an hour. Like,
Yeah.
we don't even know if we can provide service for them. We don't know if they're a good fit for us. I don't need to waste an hour talking to this person.
Yeah.
Let's have 30 minutes first.
Yeah.
And if that conversation goes well, then okay, let's take it to the next phase. Because your business is a lot different than anything I've ever done in terms of having a brick and mortar. Like everything I've done has been service based. You have a product, you have these different variations. What would you say if someone's getting into a storefront type business? What is one of the number one things, or maybe give you your top 3 of things they need to know of opening up this type of business?
Ooh, all righty. So let's.
All right, she's about to go in the bag,
I
y'all.
know. Well, you really have to step your game up because when I was at Sycamore and I thought, these kids really, like I would just have little things, to pick up. And I thought, wow, they really like to shop. Then I realized mamas really like to shop too, and then grandmothers. But for me, finding the right stuff, like what is it that they like? But you have to keep in mind, these are my customers now.
Yeah.
Like these little ones are my customers. Their ages really from coming in for the first time at, 5 years old. I keep them till they're probably about 12 years old. So I'm constantly thinking when I'm out, whether I'm at market or if I'm shopping wherever, I love to shop, by the way. So this is why I don't, and I love the compliments. It's like, Cherie, gosh, you get the best things. Remember, I'm a mom to boys.
You're fulfilling the part of your life you never got to experience.
So it's, and being very girly girl myself, so it's like when I'm finding things, it's like, oh, this is what Cherie probably would have carried when she was younger, maybe. But I don't know, but it's different when you go brick and mortar, and when you step into that's a whole different. I mean, I'm in inventory. I'm buying a course at wholesale and pricing it correctly. Making sure the store always looks good. I think people, when they come in, it's like, wow. Like it's
immaculate.
Yeah.
Immaculate. I've never seen a speck of dust on Cherie's floor ever. And I don't know how she does it.
Well, and it's white.
Yeah.
And when Scott, when I said, I'm really thinking of white epoxy, he said, you've lost your mind. And I said, I have this vision. Just roll with me, go with me, drawing it out exactly how I wanted it. I wanted it to feel like Sycamore Square. So when they did walk in, but it is funny, you'll have some kids, they'll say, I think I've been to a place kind of like this before, but it wasn't this place, And then when you start talking to young minds, you realize they're talking about Sycamore. So I think I did right by that, like just trying to make it feel, but I did make it more modern. We had rebranded. I knew what I was doing back in 2021 behind the scenes, but once again, it's a lot when you go brick and mortar. I mean, you're constantly, you got to level up, and I think that's where I'm at, and where am I going to take it to the next level is where I'm definitely at right now.
Yep. So that's the last thing I wanted to talk to you about before we wrap up. I know you've personally recently experienced this. I experienced this for the first time as an entrepreneur over the course of the last 6 months, is using other people's money. I always had this in my head where like, I have to build this from the ground up. I don't need anybody else's dollars. Like, I'll continue to scale this business up. I've always done it this way. I can continue to scale this way. And enough information started coming into my mind where it's like, nah, bro, this isn't how businesses are built.
Yeah.
Like, you have to take on debt. And there's a big difference between personal debt and business debt.
Yep.
And it took a while for me to be able to program my head to understand, you hear the old saying, it takes money to make money.
Yep.
Like, it really is true.
Yeah.
But it's a very fearful thing when you've built a business and you didn't have to take a dollar from anyone. Because I think a lot of us take pride in knowing like, hey, I don't owe anybody a dollar. Like, I built this from the ground up. But like a gentleman I was interviewing the other day, he had to raise $6 million for his first business. I'm like,
Wow.
jeez.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, I just took on like $50K or something like that. So it's nowhere in the same ballpark as what they've had to deal with. How has that been for you in terms of the times you were building the business with the cash flow that you had coming in versus when you recognized, hey, I need to take out a loan, I need an investor, I need whatever to scale this thing up?
So I always did it on my own. So I think that, like you said, that was always a proud thing. Like, I did this on my own. I don't owe anybody anything. If the doors had to close today, I mean, that was my thinking during COVID. You know, I floated it, you know, and I thought, if it had to close, if I can't reopen, just remember, Cherie, you don't owe anybody a dime. You can lock the doors and walk away, and that's it. But like I said, I did know once, you know, about 2021, I had outgrown Sycamore Square. It was time to start finding a new home. So going off a little bit, I thought I found a new home that I was going to build up the street, a new shopping center, but that for me did not work out just because that was way more than I wanted to put myself into. But when I came across the building that I'm currently in now, and I walked in that space and I went, okay, I could make this work. But once you start calling in contractors, you start calling people in and you start getting quotes, you know.
Those numbers come up
real fast. And then you look and you go, okay.
I'm like, how much is paint?
Yeah, so I was, I mean, remember, I think I might have even told you, paint was coming in almost $10,000 just for paint. And I was like,
I'm like, I can go to Lowe's and get a bucket of Bear for $20. Like, what are we talking about?
Cherie, I mean, I think we could pay. No. So, long story short, yes, when the prices start coming in, then that's when you're kind of like, all right, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yep.
I might need to go and use somebody else's money. You know, and I love the fact that I've been with the bank as long as I had been with my current, you know, still my bank.
You use a local bank or one of the commercial banks?
I use a local bank.
I always advise entrepreneurs to do that.
I use a local bank. I just was there 2 weeks ago. You're sitting in, there's, you know, with the person with my commercial loan, and this is a new person, so she wanted to meet me in person, and she was like, I went on your site, and I thought, are you kidding me? This is in our area. You know, what are you doing with this baby? What are you going to do with this? This, you know, so even when your bank sees that too, you know that
this is a franchise model.
Yeah, this is definitely, I have created it like that, which is really wild to me, because you got to remember, this was nothing that I thought I would ever do. But my first CPA saw that in me. The moment she saw, just when I was mobile, she was like, Cherie, you created this? You know? And I remember Joan telling me that, and I said, oh, this is just a hobby. Oh, this is just for fun. I'm just making extra money. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do, because I wanted to be home, a stay-at-home mom with Carter. And I don't know. It's wild. But yes, back to money, using someone else's... and I'm not ashamed to have had to go do that, because I have taken it to where I want it to look like. We were just in there, you know, doing some work again early this week. I mean, it's just going to keep getting better and better and better. And so, yeah.
And what I've come to recognize is, like, in no way, shape, or form, like, on the personal side, like, if we have any balance on our credit card, like my wife is freaking out and ready to hyperventilate. Like, it's okay, take the money over here and transfer it over here. Like, we're good to go. But I've recognized the fact that, like, when you use other people's money, it's the ultimate bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm not going to take someone else's money, whether it's a bank or investor or whatever the case is, in faith and thinking in the back of my head, like, I probably can't pull this off, but I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. Like, no, if I accept that $40,000 check or whatever, it's like, man, I know I can do this. And I like kind of feeling that pressure of, like, and maybe that's a good thing, or maybe it's a bad thing, but, like, I like the pressure of, like, being put up against the wall and saying, okay, all the cards are on the table. Because I'll joke with my staff all the time. I'm like, because sales is, like, my favorite thing to do as a business owner. And I'm like, if you stick me in the room with the right person and this deal has to get closed, I'm Michael Jordan in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left on the clock. I'm going to close this deal. I'm going to get the job done. So, like, I think now that's where I take more pride. Instead of, like, I built this thing from the ground up with nobody else's money, it's more like, hey, put me in that situation, I'll always come out on top. So I think making that mental switch, like obviously you got to be smart about this. You got to get your education up.
Yeah.
You don't want to just come straight out the gate sometimes like, man, I need to take $100,000 loan. Like, I think Mark Cuban's spoken on that before. It's like, if you're initially starting up a business and, you have to take 6 figures out, depending on the model, obviously like restaurants and stuff like that, you have to. But he's basically called entrepreneurs idiots. Like if you're taking money straight out the gate and you haven't proven your concept or brought any clients to the table, don't do that. But that took me a long time to get my head around that in terms of like, I'm not a bad person for having to use other people's money. This is just the way the business is done.
Yeah.
Cherie, this has been awesome. I've been wanting to talk to you about some of this stuff for a while.
Thank you.
If people want to get more information on SpaTacular, get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
www.SpaTacularparties.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook. And then also 804-516-4411. That's our
Perfect.
number.
If you are in the Richmond area or you're in I don't care if you're in the Richmond area or not.
Oh, they come everywhere.
I don't care if you live in Tennessee. You need to come see this spot because it truly is like, I feel like it's like the Willy Wonka factory for little girls. It's like the second the doors open, it's like, oh, and the sun is just pouring in, the lighting is just right, the colors,
are incredible.
Everything's just awesome. So, Cherie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
And we will see you guys on the next episode.